Hey Arrowhead Track, Coach Harriet here again to share another video about what's going on, the world around you, and what's going on with our program. Just this week, I received an email from Coach Whitty, who had sent out a video to his team, his basketball team, and it contained a lot of the stuff that we had talked about that week before we were put on lockdown, and a couple of things that definitely pertain to us that I wanted to share a little bit with you. And as I was looking through Coach Woody's video, of which I'm going to talk to you guys about in a second, it got me thinking about some of the experiences that we talk about in my history class. So if you've taken my history class, you have already learned all about my grandfather, who was in the 101st Airborne. The 101st Airborne did a lot of interesting stuff in World War II, including being involved in the Normandy invasion. But one day I was asking my grandpa before he passed what he would want me to tell kids about the Battle of Bastogne or the siege at Bastogne. And when I asked him that question, he got a big smile on his face, and he said that he was lucky because he got shot 3 months before Bastogne, which seemed a little bit weird to me. Usually guys don't say they're lucky for getting shot. But let me give you some background a little bit on that battle and why he felt he was lucky. That particular winter of 44 or 45 was one of the coldest on record for Europe. It was absolutely freezing. There were times during this siege, which lasted over 7 days. Now, the battle itself lasts much longer than that, but the siege at Bastogne lasts for 7 days. It was below zero for part of that time. Many of the guys that were fighting did not have any type of winter gear whatsoever. They just had their general issue, which would be good maybe for the fall. Very few supplies, no food, very little ammunition, and they're outnumbered 5 to 1. They've been surrounded by the Nazis, and everybody expects them to surrender. So again, I asked my grandpa, why is it so awesome that you got shot, Grandpa? And his response kind of surprised me. He said, I had an extra pair of socks. So I had to dig a little bit deeper. And Grandpa, why do you have an extra pair of socks? Why is that even a big deal? Well, when you got shot in World War II, you'd have been taken, of course, to the infirmary, which would have been behind the lines. While there, you would have gotten resupplied with new gear. So my grandfather was given a whole new set of uniform, which included new socks. Those socks meant that he could take off one pair during the day and put them inside his jacket to dry them out while he wore his other pair. They didn't have boots like we're wearing today. They would have had wet feet all day, every day. As my grandfather said, a lot of his friends lost toes to frostbite. He did not because he had those awesome socks. Well, that got me thinking of our E plus R equals O, event plus response equals outcome. Well, in this particular case, the event is pretty simple. You are surrounded by the Nazis, and pretty much everybody around the globe thinks this is it for you. The response, I'm happy because I've got socks. The outcome, well, they beat the Nazis. So if we look at how that relates to us, well, our event, we've got the coronavirus. Now, this is affecting a lot of people differently. I mean, who knows? Maybe you have someone in your family. As far as we know in our county, there aren't a ton of people that have been affected recently. So our event currently is we are under lockdown. Our response, well, that depends. And of course, our outcome is yet to be determined based on what your response is. And that rolls into what Coach Whitty was talking about with his players. Coach Whitty began his discussion in his video talking about an old Cherokee proverb, for lack of better terms, about a young man who is conflicted and talks to his grandfather. So the young man says to his grandfather that there's a fight going on inside of him. He says it's a terrible fight, and it's between two wolves. If you dig a little bit further, he talks about how one wolf is evil. His anger, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, self-doubt, and ego. While the other wolf is good. He's joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. So the boy asks his grandfather who will win, and his grandfather replied very simply, the one that you feed. So we all have those two wolves that are inside of us. And especially at this particular time, we can give in to one of those two sides. You could be like my grandfather in the Battle of Bastogne and wake up every day in your foxhole thinking, man, am I lucky I got warm socks? Or you could be the kid or the guy in the foxhole that is sad and is depressed because of the situation that they have been given. So with this, we need to start thinking about living within a proper alignment. So we all have these intentions. On the left side there, you can see some of our greatest athletes that we've had. So we got Taylor Aman, who is, well, she's an American Ninja Warrior, if that tells you something. All-American in the vault. We've got a very recent state champ, Jake Buer, over there. That is just when he won the state championships in the hurdles. So I included those images because I know many of you have the intentions of becoming champions or doing well, getting to state, conference, whatever that may be, if we are so lucky to have that chance. But the question is, what are your actions? Are the actions that you're doing right now going to put you in that position if that chance should come? And of course, the actions there, I've got a lovely smartphone, one of those things that rules our lives, and of course, it's got TikTok on it. So let's move ahead a little bit. So living again within alignment. So do you value the process over the outcome? That's an important thing for us to understand. The outcome we don't control. We're not all going to be state champions. Heck, there's only been a small handful in our school that have ever accomplished something like that. But we do have a goal somewhere. And that goal, again, is not controllable by us. But the process in which it takes to get us to that goal is something that you do control. So what are you doing right now to control your process? And then next up, we've got commitments over feelings. We all have a ton of commitments right now, and are you putting those above your feelings? Well, let's talk about what those are. So we are committed to right now academics. I said this in my last video. I am very concerned for some of our athletes and some of our students because that commitment to academics has to be so extremely high now that we're learning from home, or you're going to fall behind. So that's number one thing in your life. Can I get committed? And what exactly does that look like? We'll talk about that in a second. That physical strength can happen in a lot of ways. Right now, we have all sorts of workouts that you guys can be doing. Some of you, if you're lucky and you got stuff like a backyard gym or a basement gym, you can do things like that. And then, of course, that mental strength. What are you doing to take care of you, to make sure that you're all right through this particular ordeal? So those are the things that you want to be committed to. On the right-hand side, we've got those things that we just feel like doing. And that number one thing is probably this for a lot of you, your phone. Phones kind of rule our lives, especially when we've got nothing else going on at home. So what are you guys doing on them? Snapchat, Netflix, TikTok, Instagram. I've seen it firsthand. I've been a part of it firsthand. You can get onto one of those apps and suddenly an hour, 2 hours is gone in a blink of an eye. Now it's raining outside. It's a little bit dark. Maybe I won't go do my run, do my workout, do my lift, do my plyometrics, whatever that may be. How do you keep yourself on the committed side and keep away from the I just feel like side? So the challenge for you guys is to develop a routine. And I know most of you or many of you have done that. And we all have to. It's not just you, it's even your parents. They have to come up with what a routine is going to look like. I would challenge each and every one of you guys to write down exactly what is your schedule going to be. Now, we're just about finishing up spring break here, but we're going to roll right back in to school on Monday. And I can tell you, it's going to get probably a little bit more difficult. As a teacher, we've now had a little bit more time to get things figured out. Last week, we had 1 week that we had to get through. We had already had contact with you. We had things in the works. Now it might get a little bit more tricky as we start to look at how we are going to finish out the year. So number one is you got to get your academics scheduled, and that generally means getting up, getting it done. Your workouts, when is that going to happen in your day? Where is it going to happen? We know now that we are essentially on a lockdown. We're not supposed to be with other people. So can you go out and run in the streets, in a park, possibly on the track? You can, but it needs to be on your own. It cannot be with other people. And I hope that you guys will do that to the best of your ability. The other thing is taking care of those basic things like sleep, hydration, nutrition. And of course, the last one is finding ways to have fun. There's a lot of ways that we can have fun, but that's one thing that if you prioritize the other things first, you're going to get to the fun part, and it's going to feel a little bit better because you have less stress. If you've taken care of your academics, you've taken care of your workouts, you've taken care of yourself, you can then sit down and watch some TikToks mindlessly. Sleep, remember guys, I say this all the time, sleep cannot be made up. So when you are thinking about what that sleep schedule is going to be, get to bed normal on time, and then you don't have to worry about sleeping in and missing academics. Stay with it. Last thing we got on the lower right-hand corner there is what are you going to do with that phone? That thing is with you every second of the day, guys, and it is the thing that probably gets you off track the most. In your schedule, think about maybe putting that aside. Think about when academic time is. Put that phone in a drawer, leave it in your room, wherever. Sit at the kitchen table, get homework done, and then when it's done, when you get to that time in your schedule that you've set aside just for fun, that's when you pick it up again. All right, last but not least, almost last but not least, what have you done for someone else? Remember, many of us are at home with mom, dad, siblings, who knows? What have you done around the house to help out? Grandma and grandpa. There's a lot of grandma and grandpas around who are terrified of this virus, and for good reason. It is attacking the elderly viciously, especially in the hot spots like New York. Give them a call, reach out, ask how they're doing. You may even have someone that needs you to get groceries. It might not be safe for grandma and grandpa to go to the grocery store, but you can definitely do that if you're old enough to drive. Do something for someone else. Last but not least, on the very bottom we have, will you be ready? I can't tell you if we're going to have a normal track season, a state championship, a conference championship, any of that. Nobody knows. There are people who are making guesses about when we could possibly come back. The reality is we do not know. But what we do know is at some point we will compete. As I said in my last video, I don't know if it's in the fall for your next sport, or if it's going to be some type of track meet that I put together for you guys in August. But you better believe at some point you are going to compete again, and the question is, will you be ready? When that happens, there will be a time where our governor announces we're clear to go back to wherever. We're clear to be back into groups of 10. We're clear to be back into groups of 250. On that day, are you ready to step on the track and perform? If the answer is absolutely, then you've been doing everything you should. If the answer is a little bit of hesitation, not sure, then you need to go back to that schedule and figure out what you can do to get yourself ready. All right, that's about all I got for right now. Thank you for listening, guys. I cannot wait to see you in person sometime soon. Stay safe.